Chapter 7 You were dumped before. What did I do? Upon seeing at the other party seat with rage, Zhang Juan was speechless. Was this misunderstanding getting a little out of hand? However, he could understand that it was natural for others to think that way. After all, without guiding her cultivation, he was able to make their young mistress willingly acknowledge him as her master, and she even blushed upon bringing up the subject. What else more? The record crystal had been shattered. That's obvious an act of evidence destroying. All of these showed that there is something amiss with the situation. Zhang Juan was immediately labeled as a weird uncle, a sex maniac, a shameless teacher, and other similar titles. Uncle Yao, what are you thinking? If you are going to continue behaving like this, I will never bother with you again. Looking at the furious Yao Han and hearing his words, how could she not know what was going through his mind? Her face immediately darkened as she exclaimed. After all, she was a young lady. This kind of rumors would ruin her reputation. Young mistress. Interrupted by Zhao Yi, Yao Han could only withdraw his aura. All right, follow me to collect my bedding. Hold me up here, I still have lessons tomorrow. Zhao Yi harumphed and walked out of the room. She was unwilling to talk about her illness. If she were to reveal it to him, he would definitely pressure her to talk about it. Under this kind of situation, how could she possibly talk about it? Thus, unable to come up any other excuses, she could only claim to have willingly acknowledged Zhang Juan as her teacher. HMPH. After seeing the young mistress turning around to leave the room, Yao Han glanced at Zhang Juan coldly with a glint in his eye, seeming to be contemplating over something. Then, with a fling of his arm, he turned around and walked out. At this moment, the intention to kill that young man lingered in his mind. If they weren't in the academy and the young mistress didn't stop him, he would have long made his move. Who did I offend this time? Looking at the Yao Han's cold gaze, Zhang Juan felt perplexed. I only accepted the student, do you have to go this far? He made it seem as though I am an unpardonable criminal who is the source of all evil in this world. The problem was that he didn't do anything at all. Forget it, there is still time left today. Let us see if I can recruit a few more students. The more students under my tutelage, the more resources I will receive. There were many different levels to the teachers of Hongdian Academy. Every year, an assessment of the teachers would be conducted based on the conditions of their students. The number of the students they have, the pace of their improvement, their results in all kinds of competitions. The teachers were reliant on these to be promoted. The higher their level, the resources a teacher would get would increase exponentially. Naturally, the same goes for the resources their student would receive as well. This was probably what it meant by the teacher and the students advancing as one. Right now, he had only accepted 3 students. He might be able to retain his position as a teacher, but if one were to talk about qualifications, he was still the last in the entire school. In order for him to advance, he could only continue recruiting more students. Zhang Yang, be too disappointed. Huan Zhao's Hai was the only one who rejected you. You have to be so depressed. 2 youths were walking on the pavement in the academy. The youth in front was currently trying to console the one behind. Imposio, you were accepted, of course you feel anything saying those words. How about you try getting rejected? Zhang Yang frowned, unhappy at his friend's words of consolation. Cough cough. Say that there are still a lot of excellent teachers in the academy. There isn't the need for you to choose Huan Zhao's Hai out of them all. The youth in front scratched his head in embarrassment. There is no need to choose him. It is easy for you to say. Since young, we have been training in the way of the spear, and the spear has already become a part of our body. It is something we are unable to discard anymore. The best teacher in the art of the spear in Hongdian Academy is Huan Zhao's Hai. Now that you were accepted by him while I was rejected, is it possible for me to not get depressed? Zhang Yang raged. That. Imposio didn't know how he should reply to such a question. In Hongdian Academy, different teachers have different specialization. Some of them specialized in fists while some of them specialized in sabers. Huan Zhao's Hai was well known for his capability in imparting the way of the spear. He was considered as one of the better teachers even considering the entire academy. The both of them joined the examinations together in the hope to become his disciples. However, one of them passed while the other one failed. It is natural that the one who failed would feel gloomy. HMM, there is a classroom there. How about we take a look? Unsure about how he should resolve this awkward situation, Imhotep suddenly saw a classroom not too far away and pointed towards it. I am not going. Zhang Yang shook his head. Let us go and take a look. What if this teacher is also skilled in imparting the way of the spirit as well? Imhotep consoled. Anyway, you have nothing to lose just by visiting it. All right. Although he was unwilling, Zhang Yang still followed Imhotep into the room. The person inside the room was Zhang Juan. He was just about to go outside to recruit some fresh blood when he saw two youths walking in. Nice to meet you, teacher. Imhotep bowed. Son? Zhang Juan widened his eyes slightly. Are you here to look for a teacher? Yes, this is my brother. He is extremely formidable, especially with his spear. In the younger generation, there are few who can compete against him. I hope that teacher can guide him. Imhotep said hurriedly. Imhotep. Zhang Yang pulled the sleeves of his good brother. What is it? Imhotep asked in confusion. Look at the surroundings. Zhang Yang frowned. This classroom was extremely narrow. From the looks of it, it could only fit 10 people or so. It was obviously a small classroom. The size of the classroom was representative of the capability of the teacher. The teachers who were ranked in the top few have classrooms the size of a field, allowing more than hundreds of students to cultivate and train at the same time. In comparison to that, this classroom was just like the size of a palm. The teacher of this classroom was probably only of average standard. It is indeed quite small. Imhotep noticed the size of the room and his heart beats. Initially, he wanted to help soothe the stifled emotions in his best friend's heart. Yet, unwillingly, he came to this kind of location. If the teacher's standard was really subpar, not only would the stifled emotions not disappear, it might even weigh heavier on his heart. Demonstrate your ability with the spear. Seemingly oblivious to the secret conversation taking place between the two, Zhang Juan said calmly. Since we came here, we might as well have this teacher guide you for a bit, since there is nothing to lose. If his standard is really bad, we can just refuse to acknowledge him and leave. Seeing the look of hesitation on Zhang Yang's face, Imhotep persuaded him. Son? Zhang Yang nodded his head. Other than some exceptionally popular teacher that most students set their eyes on, when most teachers chose their own students, their students were allowed to examine the capabilities of the teachers as well. After thinking it through, Zhang Yang immediately retrieved the spear from his back and fixed the multiple parts together. When, with the long spear in his hands, Zhang Yang's expression changed instantly, just like the intimidating glint of the sharp edge of an unsheathed blade. Su 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 su. The long spear stabbed forward and a sonic wave boomed. The entire room sounded as though it was being torn apart and a strong gust of wind whipped up in the surroundings. Experts were identifiable the moment they made a move. This Zhang Yang, although he might not be considered strong, but his prowess with the spear was indeed not quite bad. Who? The tip of his spear trembled and struck a rock pillar not too far away. The light reverberation lingered in the air and numbers appeared on the pillar. 110. To think it would be more than 100 kilograms. Just by the destructive prowess itself, even a one-dan fighter Junsi Realm Pinnacle would be unable to take the blow. Teacher, please offer me some pointers. With his spear held vertically beside him, Zhang Yang stood upright without a hint of nervousness or tiredness as he looked at Zhang Juan impassively. Truthfully, just by the size of the classroom, he didn't hold high expectations for this teacher. He thought that his standard would at most be of average. As though proving his point, the teacher before him squinted his eyes. It was difficult to fathom what he might be thinking. He only slowly opened his eyes after hearing his words. He turned to look at him with a faint hint of a smile on his lips. You are emotionally wounded. That is, you have been dumped before. After thinking it through, Zhang Yang immediately retrieves the spear from his back and fixes the multiple parts together.